So one of the things that we all know is that we can't do it alone. It also means that we can't necessarily launch something alone. We can't always think it up alone. And that's what we're here together to help with. And also to recognize that by even having a customer, that means that we're not alone when launching a business, because we have to consider the needs of all of those others around us. But sometimes it can feel that we're alone, so very alone, but we're not. Most people, when they start an idea, they will start an idea because someone else thinks it's a really, really good thing to do. And that takes me on to the little story that I frequently said about Gina, the cupcake maker. Okay. And so Gina obviously is, she works at this office, and one fine Monday morning, she goes to work and she brings with her her tray of cupcakes that she always brings, that she makes on a Sunday afternoon, with her specially decorated cupcakes, each like an individual piece of art. And each person that's ever tried one just melts on the spot, and telling Gina just how wonderful they tasted, and just how Gina's cupcakes are actually the best thing about a Monday. And they don't even call it Mondays anymore. They call it Cupcake Day, because it's become synonymous for them with their start to a Monday. And so, encouraged by their enthusiasm of all of the people that love her cupcakes, and they keep telling her that she should actually go into business making cupcakes. And she thinks, you know what? I will. Cupcakes, I love making them. It will be wonderful with more and more and more people actually getting to enjoy my cupcakes. And heck, if I could make a living doing that, that would be wonderful. That would be her idyllic way to exist. And so after a while, she marches into her boss's office, who's also her friend, who she's known for years, and sort of says, look, I've got to go. The calling of the wild cupcakes is just upon me, and I really want to start this new life. And so she hands in her resignation and sets off for those pastures new, with that great enthusiasm and positivity that we all have when we actually have this wonderful idea of what we want to do. And the ideas are constantly flowing through her head of what to call the business and what will happen when she sells cupcakes. And in her mind, she's going to be supplying them all across the world. And so this wonderful illusion exists in her head of all of these wonderful clients and all of these wonderful callings. And so she stocks upon the ingredients, and then she makes all of these cupcakes. And then what happens is, on the Monday morning, after a weekend of making lots of cupcakes, she goes, I've got hundreds of cupcakes, but actually I'm not taking them into work because I don't work there anymore. So who's going to be having them? And so she sort of thinks, I've never had to do any sales before. So, she's already spent the weekend then opening up a bank account and creating a website and starting a social media page for Gina's Delights. And then she starts to have to track her own income and her costs, and working out this and working out that, photographing some of the cupcakes that she's made. She starts working on a flyer. Then she's outdoors, knocking door to door around town, handing out her flyers and getting a lot of rejection. And she thinks about Edison and Colonel Sanders and just how many rejections that they each received before they finally struck big. And motivated by this to continue, she makes the odd sale here or the odd sale there, and possible future connections, creating a new spark to keep her going. But after her long days, she sits down on this sofa and she totals up her profits, and there really aren't any, especially when she actually takes into account all of her gross costs. And then she realizes she's working for far less than minimum wage. In fact, when she takes up all of her costs, she's actually having to pay to run her own business. And the next day she thinks, I'm going to actually start making some more money back. And after a few days, few weeks go by, she then goes out to convince more and more people to buy her cupcakes. And she feels she's become this hard cupcake pusher. And it's just not the image that she actually saw for herself. And she bumped into somebody she used to work with, and they say, hey, Gina, how is the cupcake business going? And she's going, actually, not as well as I thought. Yeah, it's exhausting. I've been around every place in town. I've got to meet some great people, but I've only sold a few cupcakes, and it's not the life I imagined. Instead of working 40 hours a week like I used to for the company before, and I thought I'd be doing that for my passion, but instead of 40 hours, I'm spending 4 hours. And there's another 60 hours on top for the administration, the sales, the marketing, the bookkeeping, the dealing with advertisers, the website technical staff, and all of these many other people besides, and all of them are just exhausting me, asking me one question after another that I'd never even thought of, often forcing me to make decisions when I'm not even sure that they're the right ones to make. And I'm not breaking even, let alone earning a salary. And so she sort of realizes that it's not quite the illusion that she imagined it was going to be. And a further 2 months later, Gina, with her diet of mainly cupcakes, the leftover ones at best, she finally gives in, somewhat disheartened. Yeah, but she's glad she tried. And Gina Cupcakes becomes no more. Her passion of cupcakes and cupcake making was something she really, really, really had. But now it seems somewhat tainted with the painful memories of it not being the future that she had dreamed of. She's glad she'd tried. It would be one of the hardest times of her life after all, but on each working day, rather unfulfilled filled by not reaching her dreams, she often wondered, where did she go wrong? And yes, if only she'd taken that Procubate journey like you guys and refined her idea into something that had legs with the wings to fly. But she had that idea. She knew what she wanted to achieve. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for her simply because it wasn't planned for the real world. It was planned on her business number 3 illusion of the distant future. It wasn't planned on the business number 1 of how am I going to make this generate enough money to create that cash flow? How am I then going to structure it and automate it? Which isn't really about the fun of making cupcakes. That's then the fun of pushing a button for it to do the cupcakes for you. And so all of the stuff that she had this illusion of with the business was not the stuff she was doing. And too many businesses start off that way and then they end up folding because their illusion of the future and the actual reality are two very, very different things. So a lot that we're coming across within this step number 2 is about making sure that we are ready, that when we do go, we're going with something that genuinely can make a real difference, that will give us what we want, that will take us to where we want, that will actually free us up, if freeing us up is what we're after, or will allow us to spend our time doing what is important to us without having to start being overloaded by absolutely everything else. So a question that I would love all of you to really strongly ask yourselves is, what do you want to spend your time doing? And what do you want others to do for you so that you don't have to? Because if we don't try to do it alone and we pull in people to do the things that we don't want to do, that we're not ready to do, or people, or automation, or de-skilling it, or AI, or whatever the answer might be, it's irrelevant. Identifying what we don't want to do and making sure that that is being done by someone else, something else, so that we do not need to do it. Identifying within our businesses how we can actually spend our time. Do we want to be telling people about how to milk cows, or do we want to be sitting back watching the numbers on the website going up? What do we want to do? And that is a question that we should all be very much asking ourselves with our ideas, because our ideas, we're going, that's where it's going to be, but what do we have to do and put up with in order to get there? So if everybody can actually get a bit of an idea on what they want to do and spend their time doing and what they absolutely don't want to spend their time doing, that would be fantastic to know. Because there are many tempting exit points in a business where we go, you know what? I've had enough. I don't want to do this. This isn't right. And we can waste a huge amount of effort and it all goes when we've just abandoned ship. But instead, if we can make sure that we don't want to abandon ship, that we know what is involved and how we're going to do it, and actually make sure that the stuff that we don't want to do is going to be handled by somebody else at the earliest possible opportunity, we can make sure we're focused on what is important to us. So I'm going to pass back to all of you guys to ask you, what is important to you and what don't you want to be doing?